Former Vinyl Technologies workers say the company hasn't given them an explanation.
It's the 30th fundraiser President Obama has hosted in LA County since he took office in 2008.
When Charles Russell came out to Slab City to start East Jesus, all he found here was a bunch of trash. But instead of sending all that to a landfill, he decided to make art with it. Parenchio says the artwork must be housed in a brand new building that will replace 4 of the aging structures behind me.
The jury could begin deliberations tomorrow. They will decide if Bolden is guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and assault with a firearm.
When asked if City Hall was haunted, some people who work here said, of course, Councilman Gil Lindsay, who died 24 years ago, still roams the 3rd floor. While others, like Councilman Bernard Parks' Chief of Staff Bernard Parks Jr., were a little more skeptical. The prosecution began their closing arguments with what they say are recorded confessions from Javier Bolden. The 22-year-old is accused of killing Chinese grad students Ming Wu and Ying Qiu 2.5 years ago. The students were shot and killed inside their BMW just off USC's campus.
Mr. Bolden has told you in his own words on 4 separate occasions that he is guilty.
Bolden's attorney Andrew Goldman told the jury Bolden may have just been lying to a jail informant.
I hold to you that almost everything that Mr. Bolden said to this confidential informant was to make himself look tough in jail.
Deputy District Attorney Dan Akmo played a video of Bolden talking to a jail informant. Bolden's attorney reminded jurors they can only find Bolden guilty if the evidence proves the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
We've got to really believe them and know that 30 years from now, and you're talking to somebody about this case that you know you did the right thing.
The jury could begin deliberations tomorrow. They will decide if Bolden is guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and assault with a firearm. If found guilty, Bolden faces life in prison. East Jesus is full of art.
He kept saying, no, it's the man in the machine. We're like, nah, Han Solo and Kryptonite.
Made of what most people would call garbage. Co-curator Jen Nelson says using trash to create assemblage art sends an important message.
Our goal is creative reuse. And there are so many things out there that we don't use until end of life that we get rid of before they're done being useful.
Old mattresses become a fence, televisions become a mural, and plastic bags make a sculpture of a sea monster.
We live in the art, we cook in the art, we eat in the art, we make music in the art. We are constantly making art in the art. We're surrounded by art all the time.
When Charles Russell came out to Slab City to start East Jesus, all he found here was a bunch of trash. But instead of sending all that to a landfill, he decided to make art with it.
This land, for the longest time, has been considered unusable. It's an abandoned military base. And so no one really cares about what happens out here.
Nelson used to just visit and contribute art on weekends. A year and a half ago, problems with her spinal cord forced her to retire from her job teaching high school. Her mobility in LA was limited. She decided to move out to Slab City.
Many of the residents at East Jesus are people who no longer fit in the workforce. We have a couple cancer survivors. I have a spinal condition. We have several disabled veterans. We worked until we couldn't work anymore, and then the workforce essentially disposed of us.
21-year-old Jonathan Baez says he moved out here because he couldn't afford college or find work that satisfied him. Now he makes sculptures and even art he can wear, like the mask he has on.
My life at home was kind of inert. I was really dormant, so I wasn't really doing anything. I couldn't really get anything done.
Of course, living off trash in the middle of the desert has its difficulties. East Jesus uses solar panels to power air conditioning, lights, and electronics. Water has to be trucked in. They grow some food, but most of it has to be bought at the nearest grocery store, an hour away.
In some ways, it's harder because there are more things we have to do, but we've given up so much of the things that we don't want to do. We've given up the things that don't make us happy.
For Nelson, East Jesus is a place where she feels more free than she ever did in LA.
We're discarded people living off discarded things and breathing new life into both at the same time.
The founder of East Jesus passed away in 2011, but the people who live here now say they will further his vision, for East Jesus to always keep growing. Faith Miller, ATVN.
City Hall sits on the land that used to be LA's original gallows. Some say the hundreds of people who died there are still haunting the building.
There are sort of phantom shadows and and various other things that occur in the walls of City Hall.
Richard Carradine is the founder of Ghost Hunters of Urban Los Angeles. He tells people he takes on tours that when City Council banned fortune-telling in the early 1900s, soothsayers and mystics protested and then cursed the building.
From henceforth, City Hall would always be haunted by the restless ghosts of Los Angeles.
Carradine says at night, alarms are tripped off. Security guards see shadows move. They hear the click-clack of a woman walking in heels. But the building is closed, and every living person should be gone.
Almost nightly, something will happen on the upper floors, and they'll need to go check it out.
When asked if City Hall was haunted, some people who work here said, of course, Councilman Gil Lindsay, who died 24 years ago, still roams the third floor. While others, like Councilman Bernard Parks' Chief of Staff Bernard Parks Jr., were a little more skeptical.
I have not heard of any ghosts at City Hall other than maybe the ghost of bad ideas, which seems to circulate around council chambers occasionally.
Miriam Schneider leads tours around the building as a docent. She says she's never seen a ghost, but
everything's possible. Holly weird, right?
Because you really can't prove it either way. You can't prove that there are ghosts, and you really can't prove that there aren't ghosts.
We do have a couple of folks in here who occasionally look like goblins and werewolves, but I think they're just city staffers.
One LA resident said he'd heard about something even scarier than ghosts at City Hall: the budget deficit. Faith Miller, ATVN.